Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Therapy Talk, where we talk about all things mental health. My name is Lloyd Fider, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist in New York City. I'm also the owner of a group private practice called Blue Harbor Psychotherapy. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget, hit that subscribe button and also the bell notification so you know whenever I have a new video uploaded to the channel. And also please make sure, don't forget, give this video a big like, big thumbs up. Alright? So, in today's video, I want to talk about something that maybe is a little different to the kinds of topics that I usually talk about in this channel, right? But still related to what I do as a therapist and definitely related to mental health. And that is health insurance. Ooh, health insurance. You know, I always say health insurance is something that's good to have, but sometimes difficult and complicated to understand. So I hope in today's video, I will try to clarify and hopefully make things a little bit easier to understand when it comes to health insurance and how it relates to mental health, okay? So as a therapist and in my private practice, I accept insurance. When I say that, I mean I am in network with a few health insurance plans, like these, okay? So let's start with in-network versus out-of-network, okay? So like I said, I'm an in-network provider with several insurance plans. That basically means I have a contract with that particular health insurance with contracted negotiated rates, okay? So this usually means these negotiated rates that I have with these insurance plans are lower than what I would normally charge a client. So what my normal fee would be. This is helpful for a lot of clients because this means that they're going to be paying less than what I would normally charge when it comes to services. Okay? And then we have out of network. The simplest way for me to explain is basically you the client can see anyone, right? Anyone that you'd like to work with, right? So why would someone choose to work with an out-of-network provider if working in-network is cheaper? Well, you know, sometimes, let's see, there are not a lot of in-network providers in a particular area, so it's just easier to work and more accessible to work with someone who's out-of-network. You know, for some people, they really like a therapist, you know, maybe with a specific specialty, and then they're out-of-network, so they would rather just work with that particular therapist with that expertise or specialty. So they'll, you know, they want to stick with that person, you know, and someone they really maybe vibe with or really like, they're going to stick with that person. So these are just some of the reasons why someone would want to work or choose to work with someone who is out of network. Okay. Now, let me give you a little bit of vocabulary lessons. Let's talk about a few terms that is talked about and heard a lot when it comes to dealing with insurance companies and insurance plans. Let's start with copay. Okay, so copay basically means it's a set rate that you pay to an in-network provider. Okay, let's be clear, it's towards an in-network provider, right? So it's a set fixed rate that you pay, and then everything else the insurance covers. So for example, for me, when I see my primary doctor, I pay $30 for a follow-up visit. Okay, and everything else the insurance company pays. Okay, then we have deductible. Now deductible is a certain amount that your insurance sets for, usually it's a whole year. It's a certain amount that you have to pay out of pocket before the insurance companies or your insurance plan begins to cover or pays for services. Okay, and then we have co-insurance. So co-insurance is usually it's a percentage of what the insurance company will pay after you meet the deductible. Okay, so for example, if your deductible is $1,000 a year, which means you're gonna pay out of pocket to the provider, whether it's a doctor, a psychotherapist, whatsoever. And then after you reach $1,000 of paying out of pocket, you would have, for example, a 20% coinsurance. Now, 20% means you're only responsible for 20% of the rate, whatever that means, or whatever that is. Okay? So, for example, I'm just going to give you a quick example. I'm not going to give you guys the exact amount or rate I have with insurance companies. So I'm just giving you some examples. So, for example, a client, my negotiated rate with the insurance company for a 45-minute psychotherapy session is $100. Okay, just for an example. So copay, the client will just pay $25 and that's it. I file a claim to the insurance company, then I get reimbursed. Okay. Now, if a client has a $1,000 deductible, right, so the client will pay towards the deductible. Now, as an in-network provider, I can only charge the client $100 because that's my contracted rate with them, right? So $100 times what, 10? Then the client reaches the $1,000 deductible. And after that, if a client, let's say, has a 50% coinsurance, that means 50% of 100 is 50. So that is the amount that the client will be responsible for. Everything else, the insurance company will cover. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And there's also what we call allowed amount. Okay, so basically this means that this is the maximum amount a plan will pay for a covered, in my case, mental health service. Okay, so sometimes people also call this eligible expense, payment allowance, or negotiated rate. Right? I have more things to say about allowed amount later on. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about how it is to work with someone who is in network versus someone who is out of network. Okay. The easiest of all is working with someone in network because, like I said earlier, it's cheaper for the particular client. All right. So you either just pay a particular copay, a particular set amount, or you have a deductible. After you meet the deductible, you have a coinsurance, which is a certain percentage, right? And then you don't have to worry about filing any paperwork to the insurance company most of the time, or actually all of the time. The particular provider, in my case, the therapist, will be the one sending claims to our insurance company to be reimbursed. Okay, so you as the client have nothing to worry about. And then there is working with someone who is out of network, right? It's a little bit more complicated or confusing, but it's, sometimes the more you know, it gets better working with someone who is out of network. You have a better understanding of how your insurance plan works. So basically this means, first, you will be paying the provider their full rate, okay? Because remember, in-network providers have a contracted rate with the insurance company. Out-of-network providers do not. So initially, you'll be paying the full rate of that particular provider, okay? And then you have to deal with deductible and coinsurance, right? So most of the time, the deductible and the coinsurance is higher for a client when they're working with an out-of-network provider, okay? I don't know why. That's something you can ask an insurance companies. I've never really understood why that's the case, but that's the reality. All right. Now, after you pay the full rate of the particular clinician or provider, there are two ways to send information to your insurance plan for reimbursement. Either the therapist gives you a super bill, which is basically, it contains your name, demographic information, your diagnosis, the what we call CPT code, which is it's 5 numbers. Like for example, a 45-minute psychotherapy session is 90834. Then they have the amount, and then usually it's the therapist's license number, NPI number, which is National Provider Identification Number, and I think also tax ID. So you bring the super bill, you submit this to your insurance company for reimbursement. Or, and this is what I do in my practice, I send the claim on behalf of the client. It just makes it a little bit easier for the client. And I really don't mind doing that. But I also know a lot of out-of-network therapists who just gives a super bill to their client, who then submits it to the insurance companies for reimbursement. Okay, so let's talk about how a client is reimbursed by their insurance company if they're working with someone who's out of network. Now, like I said earlier, the out-of-network provider will charge the client, and the client will pay the full rate of that particular provider. Okay, so let's say, for example, it's $200. Okay, remember, there's a deductible. So the client pays $200, $200, $200 until they hit 1,000. So that's, let's say, that's for example, 5 sessions. 5 times 200 is 1,000 if that's the client's deductible. All right, and then there is a coinsurance. So let's say it's 50%. So what happens is, after the client hits $1,000 deductible, then, like I said, coinsurance is a percentage of what the client will be responsible for and what the insurance company will cover. So 50% of 200 will be 100. So that's the amount that the client will ultimately be reimbursed and will be responsible for. Now, like I said earlier, there is what we call an allowed amount. Okay. Now, what I just said about the 200, that's assuming the allowed amount is $200. And I say this because sometimes for out-of-network providers, the allowed amount that goes towards the deductible is not 200 or not what the therapist is charging. Sometimes it's less. Okay. Again, I don't know why that happens, something to ask insurance companies, and we don't get to know the actual allowed amount until an insurance claim is filed, and we get what we call an explanation of benefits. Okay, so let's break it down. So let's say, for example, the allowed amount is $150. Okay, so the client pays $200 to the therapist. Therapist gives them a super bill, which the client sends to their insurance company for reimbursement. Okay, so the way they calculate is the difference of so 200 minus 150 is 50. So take that 50, and then let's say the co-insurance is 50%. Okay, so 50% of 150 is 75. Okay, yeah, okay. So 50 plus 75 is 125, and that's the total amount the client is responsible for. Okay. Hopefully that is clear. Again, this is assuming the client already has reached their deductible. So they're gonna pay the therapist $200. Okay, they file a claim. The insurance company will process based on the allowed amount of 150, right? So again, the difference of 200 and 150 is 50. 50% of 150 is 75. So 50 plus 75 is 125, and that's the amount the client is responsible for. I know that maybe it's a little bit complicated. I hope not, but I hope I explained that pretty well, right? If you have further questions about working with someone who is in-network versus out-of-network, or just working with therapists who accept insurance, please put those questions and comments down in the comment section. You can also email me at lloyd@blueharborpsychotherapy.com. Alright, that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and as I said earlier, please don't forget, subscribe, hit the bell notification, give this a like, and also please make sure to share this video to your friends and families. I hope that everyone can learn a lot from this video. And as I always say at the end of my videos, I would like to wish all of you to have a happy mental health day. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye!